um, I'm like, you have to listen. You have to listen to one another because we have so many students for coming from different backgrounds with different life stories, thoughts, views, perspectives that just highlight so many different ideas of culture and gender and race and how they all blend. And we can't, that's our existence. We can't divide our gender from our race, from our culture. That's what intersectional feminism and intersectionality means. And I think that's really something where writ large, the United States could take a note up and be better at listening and looking outside of ourselves for ideas on how to navigate this. I'll just speak briefly because it made me think of this moment. My two daughters, who just made a brief cameo before they go to bed, talking about family leave. This is something, until I was pregnant and having to go through the process of it, I wasn't necessarily aware of it. And then I got furious, like so angry at the way our country does not support our mothers, our working mothers, and parents, like, parents who adopt. My husband couldn't take leave because we both worked for the same county, so only one spouse could take it. And that's absurd. You're not giving the father the chance to, bond and be there and take extra time with the kids. And so it was a night Pooja was hosting a Rise to Run event where I first met Barb. I had just had my second daughter, Bailey, and because I had to use all of my personal time, all of my sick leave for maternity leave for my pregnancy, I got very sick and had to take a day of no pay. And teachers don't get paid a lot to begin with. I'm very lucky that we're in a very, stable financial situation that I could do that. That is not the case for so many women, for single mothers. And like Lisa said, COVID has exacerbated this scenario. And it just, I still get so angry because I see my coworkers going through this. And, the following year, I still didn't have any leave after 2 children that I had to build back up. And when I'm talking in class or researching, like looking to other nations, other cultures that are consistently doing something better and different. And yet, for some reason, we're reluctant to take a page from that book. It's the same. I do a lot of research for the education system too, and so many great things are being done in other cultures and other countries, and yet we are still keeping with the status quo that is just not working. I don't know if that answered your question at all. I was just thinking about that with what so many of you said. And I love that idea of we need to be in these rooms and listen more than we talk. And hopefully our lawmakers start doing that as well. And I think the more women we get in the room and at those tables, that will inevitably happen.
Yeah, I think I actually know you did answer my question because, and you brought up something else, because my next question was like, how can we raise the awareness on why it's important on passing the ERA federally and other initiatives like it? Because of just like what you said, there's disparities, there's economic disparities across the board, and especially for women, right? And depending on where you land on the social economic ladder, et cetera, or even race plays a huge part in it, which those intersections make the disparity gap even wider. When we talk about raising this awareness and looking to other countries who seem to be doing a pretty doggone good job at it, and not something that we've been able to bring up it here in America, what are some of the economic disparities, and how can we raise awareness around, finding other people other models to look at to bring it to our conversations. And I'm gonna hand that question over to Barb.
So I was going to jump back, if it's okay, to what Jessica was talking about. There is a pivotal study that's been done right here in Loudoun County by the Commission on Women right now in the midst of COVID. And they did a study on 400 respondents, and these women have been impacted by a variety of unmet needs. So it's happening right where we live right now, and there are people in real needs, real that we need real help. We as a NOW organization have reached out to the Commission on Women to find out how we can, on this scale, right where we are with our neighbors and the people that are in, women that are in Loudoun, how we can uplift them. So I wanted to make sure people knew that. So it's the Loudoun Commission on Women, and there's a study been done. So it's happening right now. But now you'll have to ask your question again. I apologize, but I wanted to make sure people knew that.
No, actually, that sort of was going into what the question was. What
Okay.
the lingering economic disparities, and that report basically highlighted what some of those disparities were. They made them very, very obvious.
Yes.
Those are the questions that were answered.
So some of the points in the report, I'm looking at it right now, were childcare support. It affected over 40%. Access to healthcare, including physical and mental health, connections to employment or other workforce support, housing support, food or nutritional support, access to clothing or diapers or family essentials. We've all seen or volunteered at diaper banks. I volunteered, I don't mean to digress, in Sterling, all masked up, and we helped, I can't tell you, I think it was like 1,000 people came through, families that were supported by this diaper bank, predominantly just by vision. I don't have any numbers. It was Latina women and families predominantly. The other, going back to the study, domestic violence resources. So the big key takeaways of the study by the Commission on Women were 34% of women or their spouses have lost their jobs or are working fewer hours. 72% of these were in the Loudoun zip codes, and the respondents were between the ages of 24 and 55. I wanted to tell you that.
Thank you so much, Barbara, because I think that's really important. Sorry, Pooja had a question or had a comment to the last question, so I want to hand the floor over to her.
I'm sorry, it's getting very excited, this discussion.
Yeah.
I've learned about a lot of this, but so I wanted to talk about economic difference and how I'm learning about it as a college student, and how it's all very sort of not novel to me, but you see a lot of things you didn't see growing up. I think one economic disparity within young women of color right now exists in terms of connections. Keep in mind, Barb is basically the reason I have a career. It's because she located me, gave me her card, and followed through. Right. I got very lucky as a small brown girl talking about her family's history in India. I could have very well just been an anecdote that people left that LCDC meeting talking about, being like, that was a great speech. Wonder if we'll ever see her again. But it wasn't, because someone that had privilege above me came and found me. When I'm in college now, people ask me how I have these opportunities. I've been very fortunate to work in a lot of great atmospheres, right? I'm an international relations student. All three of my jobs are in my major, and every internship I've ever had is something I just could not, 15-year-old me could not fathom doing the things I do now. People assume my parents work for the Department of State. My parents do not work for the Department of State. My dad went to college in University of Missouri, Columbia, got his scholarship removed because they ran out of funding, had to transfer to Akron, while my mother then had me while she volunteered for the Red Cross. And it was only through chances of faith and a lot of hard work that we ended up in DC, where if I hadn't had parents that pushed me to speak up, I would have never found Barb. The amount of luck involved in that story is obscene, right? So if you see someone of color, a young person of color who is trying to get in a field that is largely dominated by people that don't look like them, just take a leap of faith. Because if Barb hadn't given, like literally handed me her card that day, and if all of Network Nova hadn't told me to make business cards about a month later, I wouldn't have met Theresa. I would not be on this panel, right? And so I think moreover, discrimination, institutionalized discrimination causes economic disparities from day one for young individuals of color, young females of color. As a young female, I'm sure every single woman in this room has had their pain not taken seriously, whether that's menstrual pain, mental health days, anything to do with, and I don't know anything about this, but I'm sure anything to do with maternity, right? There are likely times your pain is not taken seriously because it is normalized. Now think about all of the PE classes you had growing up and how your PE teachers wouldn't let you sit out without a note, or how you couldn't get out of class if something made you anxious without a note. Think about the number of the horror stories we have heard for years and years and years about Black women who undergo just being absolutely not taken seriously by medical professionals. Think about all of the Black and brown women who are constantly told that their pain is in their head. It's insane. It leads to a mental health pandemic amongst women of color who do not take themselves seriously. It's only in the last 2 months alone that I have started taking my mental health seriously. This institutionalized discrimination causes long-term economic disparity because now I'm at the point where I work 3 jobs to get through college, and I'm fortunate enough to have parents whose insurance can cover mental health help. But families, when we're not pushing for the mental health and physical pain of young women of color to be taken seriously at an early age, we are leading them to have to deal with their problems when they're much older and might not have the connections to have a stable income just yet. So this stuff starts from the first day you ran the pacer in PE class, and it goes all the way to, God forbid I ever have to find out how long this goes still. The point is, if you're seeing a young woman of color, a young woman anywhere, pick them up, take a leap of faith on them, and also take their pain and hardship seriously, because sometimes in this space, everyone is so kind, but unfortunately it also means that I feel like a representation of my entire race and gender. We need help too. We're all people. So economic disparity starts young, especially in women. And so it's up to, the white woman in the room specifically, the white men in the room, and everyone else that's got privilege, point blank, period, to take us seriously.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Because sometimes, we aren't as women taken seriously when you start to add the intersection of race and what country you come from or however we start to create these intersections, you start to level up the disparities. I had our tech Nick add Patricia Roos to the call. She had a comment, and she is one of our leadership with the National Now chapter. So I just wanted to briefly open the floor to you, Miss Roos. I think you can speak.
Hi, I'm a proud Loudoun County Now member. Come on.
Oh, absolutely.
And I met Barb at Jessica's workshop. So Pooja and all of you, see, there's a connection there. Barb came running up to me, and I thought, oh, I love her. I want, as a privileged white woman who's 79 years old this year, but still cooking, still clicking, representation is a new and good word, but that's how I started in 1972 when I woke up and realized that my sons, who were 1, 2, and 3 at the time, I forgive me, I just kind of went overboard, and thought they're just only seeing men. It's president men, mayor men, whatever. And we started the Montana Women's Political Caucus. And we weren't ashamed that we were asking for women to be represented. But think of the 70s and then the 80s where women were oppressed, made to dress up and still be oppressed. Mm-hmm. And so representation right now is very important to me, and I have fought. And I love it. Don't just hold the door open for someone, help them buy the damn building, right? Come on, that's our housing, that's our businesses. So I'm unapologetic. And Justin, this is just your dear friend Pat. Close your ears. I give speeches where everybody laughs and thinks, geez, feminists actually do have a sense of humor. But I would announce that I did not think that anybody who hadn't missed a period could decide on women's reproductive health lives. And of course, the men are standing there and going, oh my God, that may be true. And so there are wonderful men in our lives that are our partners and share our passion. My 3 sons, and every man I've met and had about 20 minutes to get all fixed up, they're with us and they're on our side. The second thing is I spent my life working on the violence and poverty and the intersectionality of them. And though I'm not proud of that intersectionality, but I want you to stop and think. I'm looking at all of you. I could write a book and tell a story about all of you because of how you appear. But there are horrible secrets that women keep. And just stop right now. If we all had to, whether it's true or false, we had to announce to this crowd of people that we wanted to admire us that we were poor.
Mhm.
And then we had to announce that our husband, boyfriend, father, babysitter, priest, coach had raped us. Women take those secrets to their death. And yet, so that when you talk about listening, that's one of the things we have to listen for. A survey of moms on welfare, it took the social worker 6 visits to get the trust of the women in her caseload to tell her. She said 83% of them had been disclosed, the child sexual abuse, the teen abuse, the abuse of a partner, and why she left and why she was on welfare. 6 times. 5 times she kept it. It was her dirty, it was her dirty little secret. I'm not only poor, but I somehow can't keep myself from getting sexually abused. And so I feel like I just have kindred souls here. I'm not going to stop till the day I fall out of my chair. I told my friend last night, spilling my half glass of wine, and then maybe I'll stop then. But other than that, I am proud of Loudoun County now. I'm proud of every one of you. I'm proud of you, Barbara, on military sexual assault. You can imagine how all the years I've worked on that. Pooja, I'm proud of you too. And when we're all live and well and can get together, we'll dance a dance, all right? And Justin, I'm proud of you because you laughed and smiled at my jokes, so you win. And Barbara and Jessica, I pledged you that Loudoun County now is going to be bigger and better than ever. But I felt like I had kindred souls and needed to bear my heart a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Trisha.
Pat, you don't love me?
I said all of you. Did I forget to say your name?
Yeah, you just forgot me. I'm kind of
Well,
taking it
come
personal
on.
over here.
I do everything you asked me to. Since you
You
told
do. I love you.
you told
Teresa.
some giant audience when you called me, I dissed you and hung up on you.
I did?
Yes, you did. Monique said the same. Yes. And I went, oh my God, I'm gonna have to stop hanging up on people. I am a little brusque. I am brusque.
We'll talk about that offline because I don't remember that, but
It's okay.
I think you had to watch the baseball or basketball game. We know your priorities.
I know, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
that's okay.
Oh, I'm holding my head. I had my second shot. I get to go have Easter with my grandkids and watch baseball. Oh, I'm gonna break out tears. Yeah.
hey, if it's Nationals or Dodgers, I'm with you all the way.
No,
Pat.
it's Loudoun County Little League, you goose.
I'm gonna start calling people goose.
Right.
I like that.
I'm bringing that.
I think it's really great when we have all of these, these voices from generations on here, because hearing about the work that you've done, Patricia, since the 70s, and then and thinking about the work that I'm doing now, and I'm I guess I'm middle aged now, I don't know what that is, and then we have Pooja on here and Jessica who's teaching the youth. We just think about that generational movement. And I do acknowledge you. Just you said you have a question, so I want to go ahead and acknowledge that. But I just wanted to thank Patricia for being on here, because I think that gave us a really great dynamic on this call, what that looks like.
No, not necessarily a question, but just to kind of piggyback off on this whole idea of voice and representation, that was essentially the reason I created the Women's Studies program, because we aren't seeing ourselves represented, whether it's our gender or race, culture, class. We see a very narrow single perspective of our world's history in a lot of ways. And for me, the most rewarding part of teaching the women's studies and being able to, put these women who have been there throughout history in front of my students and introduce them to new icons and leaders and historical figures. But my favorite part has been putting women like Pat and Barb and Connie and Delegate Carol Foy in front of them, because that's where, Pat met Barb at a summit I hosted, and to see the young students fangirling, as I'd like to call it, like over our grassroots organizers and our elected officials, and these women who are unapologetically using their voices to fight for their rights and our younger generation's rights, that I think was such an impactful, pivotal moment for so many. And so that is what I love. I mean, they still talk about Pat. They love her. They love Pat.
And that was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask, like what it looks like to ensuring that the younger generation comes and understands that they have an impact, and then to just let their voices be heard. So I'm glad we even just got in that conversation without even me having to prompt it. But we are coming to a close with this. I just want to ask this one last question, because I generally don't like to just talk about problems and not really talk about solutions, right? Like I don't want to be that person. And I think it's really important that we always come to the table with something, some type of solution. And so the question I want to pose to everybody, I'm just going to round table it. Where would you like to see the momentum in these different efforts moving forward? And I'll just start at the corner with Pooja, well, my corner with Pooja.
Sure, this is always a very impactful question. I think in the past, I've always had a very specific call to action where I'm trying to build capacity for something that I really believe in. That will always be the case, and I will probably be back in a year with something like that to say. But I think today, what's important to me is, as I have felt frequently alone in Scotland with this class and wealth difference that I don't understand, the whole UK system that I don't understand, that feeling of confusion has been weirdly familiar to me from other spaces I've been in, doing summer camps at Georgetown, where I have no idea how anyone could possibly live a life like London Tipton, but they magically do. Take the kids that seem a little bit confused in the room, but come with a lot of like brightness in their eyes, and connect them to someone you think can help them, or be the person for them. Right? You might be someone in this room that thinks that they have nothing to say or nowhere to help a young person get involved with causes, but you definitely know someone, right? At this point, you know myself, like Miss Berg, 100% Miss Berg, Barb, Theresa, like everyone on this panel is worthy of bringing a young person to connect with. Even if that's just to have a conversation with them. I still remember like the first day I felt the door to the grassroots physically open. Felt like there's when I think of Loudoun County, when I think of where I grew up, I feel like there's the suburbs and where my school was and where we walk our dogs. And then there's this weird underground place of kooky, awesome organizers that I never knew existed. And that door, you can't find it unless someone takes you there. So get someone to that door. Reach out to college students, reach out to actual chapters. You have to take initiative. They're not just going to show up in front of you. Reach out to the feminist organizations within the colleges around your area. Go speak at classes like Miss Berg's or English classes, or go speak at after school organizations. Everyone is looking for a speaker. I cannot tell you how many times I was looking for a speaker for an event in high school, right? These kids want to talk to you. They want to learn. But you got to take them to that crazy, kooky, underground grassroots world, because I swear it's made my life that much better. And they will thank you for it. So that's my call to action. That's where I want to see the momentum going.
Awesome. Thank you very much. You're right. It is this underground world, and you don't realize how many amazing people are here. So I actually got introduced to it through Barb too. So just kudos to you, Barb. Miss Sales, I'd like to hear what you'd like to see the momentum going moving forward. I know you're like one of our leaders in the state. So where do you see the momentum going?
Oh my gosh, thanks. I don't know that I deserve that. I mean, we're all so interconnected here. I think it's because we all have a different skill set, or we bring something else to the table. And I think it's just really important to keep expanding our networks. And as Pooja said, you know, bringing more people in, bringing in diversity, raising other women up, bringing our men in, right? And creating allyship too, because we can't move forward without the help of our male colleagues and friends and family. It's incumbent on mothers and fathers to bring up their sons differently, to empower women and not make us think we're the weakest or they're superior or stronger, because we have a lot of fortitude and a lot of strength. And I think something I'm really proud of that we're doing, Jess, you know where I'm going, Jess, she's already shaking her head. So one of the ways what we have done is Jess and I have come together, and we're bringing in students together into a group, right, to look at the curriculum. We found that Fairfax County has one elective on women's studies, and it's only in one school. Jess is working on this whole textbook, and she's in 7 schools in Loudoun County High School, but it has to start even younger, right? It has to start in elementary schools, and it can't be just 5 women in world history too that we're learning about, because we can't be it if we can't see it, right? And so if we bring together the voice of youth, and we go to our school boards, and we go to our boards of supervisors, and we go to our city councils, and we say, this is the change we want to see, and we're not stopping, we're not shutting up, we're bringing our folding chair to the table, right, until you make the change. And by the way, it's not enough to have an elective on women's studies where only women are learning about the history we missed. But what about American history? What about world history, where both men and women are learning about each other, the fabric of society, their labors and what they contributed to make America what America is. And America still has a lot of work to do when it comes to women. But I think giving more and more women of all backgrounds voices. And, you know, sometimes we as women, the other thing I've noticed, we have the skill set, we have the smarts. In fact, we're more educated than men in America. We also have more student loan debt in America. Many people don't know that, right? But what we can do is we can give women just that little nudge that they need, right? They're smart, they bring a lot to the table, but sometimes they just need a little push to that boardroom table. Or they just need to know the Council to End Domestic Violence or Loudoun Now exists and be invited. Sometimes they don't even know you exist, and just invite them to the table so that we can all be more powerful and empowered by raising our voices together. So I think that's the future, along with a pay equity assessment and gender equity assessments at every level of government. So thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. So we do have Justin in the room, who is actually co-hosting to help me with the technical pieces of this along with Nick. But I did want to ask, since he is here, you know, what, you know, because I know you have a daughter, a beautiful daughter, and you know, and you're married, and you have your partner. What would you like to see the momentum moving forward, you know, for your daughter and for your spouse?
So there's a couple things I heard, and I agree. And I think Jessica said something about the fangirls, and I had a fanboy moment earlier today. I'm going to speak with an Obama era appointee, a woman, and I found out about her 2 or 3 years ago, and I found out that she's able to speak with me this week. So I had my own little a fanboy moment myself, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Boys have those moments too, or men have those moments as well. But I want my daughter to have the representation that, you know, we weren't able to see, you know, when I was growing up. My mother and my grandmother, they were single mothers for a period of time. And my mom, they were great role models, but I know they had to struggle. And my grandmother is 83 years old, and I know she had struggles that she would never tell me about, and some that she tells me about, which I couldn't imagine today. And I don't want my children to go through those struggles. I want it to be better for them. My daughter, who is very strong, and we tell her every day that she's strong, and that she's the next, or she's going to be a Supreme Court justice, and we try not to call her a princess or anything like that. And she beats up my son, so that's what I want to see. I want to continue to tell her that she's strong, and tell my son that this is what it means to be an ally, or this is what it means to have representation, to have someone that looks like your complexion and someone that's not your gender. So I completely agree. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. I think it was Pat who brought that up. We definitely need our male allies because, when we can't be in the room, it's important that we have allies in the room for us who are willing and able to speak up when they see something going on or policies being created that would be hurtful to all of us. So thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. This is Pat. Thank you for that, and kisses to your daughter and your son.
Absolutely. So I wanted to also ask Sarah, it says Barbara, so I need to make sure I don't call you Barbara. Sarah, that same question, where would you like to see the momentum going with the different efforts that we talked about today and for women's initiatives?
That's a really good question. And I want to kind of change my answer than directly what you're saying here. But I just want to say, this is a really wonderful group of people. And I didn't realize how many people are out there, just individuals busting their behind to have all this information spread, to our communities, to our families. And all the different projects that all of you are working on, it's so impressive. And I just feel so grateful to be sitting here speaking with all of you and learning about all these amazing things that are happening in my own community. So it's hard for me to answer because I feel like today's meeting really answered for me, what do I want to see? This is what I want to see. I want to see people really putting in the work. And the things that I've done in my career and the things that I've seen with my family and my friends' families, it just really feels tonight that there are really people out there working for families, making sure that people are cared for, that they have the resources that they need if something happens, if they're sexually assaulted, if there's domestic violence, if they feel like they're having issues in the workplace with unequal pay. This is what I want to see, all of you doing everything that you're doing. So thank you very much. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Sarah. And Barbara? The real Barbara.
I think all of you have hit the nail on the head. That we have to listen. We have to see people for who they are. Biggest thing is listening and to be present so we can, wherever we are and whatever the moment is, lift up men and women and children. Equality, I always say it and I think it should be just like the air we breathe. It's not there yet. So it is going to take all of us, that Herculean effort, wherever we see it, to bring it forth and create the awareness and bring everybody we know along to do it. So I thank you all for this powerful evening spent with you. You're magnificent people, and I'm blessed to know all of you.
Yes.
Barb, I am still obsessed with you. I'll say it again and again. You're just the best. Theresa, sorry, really quick. I wanted to drop in the chat concrete steps you can take to reach out to youth that might be suffering from economic disparity. Please screenshot it. Please actually reach out to people. You can do something. Don't just come to panels where you know people. Be like Barb. Be like all the organizers in this room. Be awesome.
We have plans for you. You don't know it yet, Pooja. Teresa's
Yeah.
going to be calling you again.
And so we have two more to go through before
And Sarah.
before we log off, so Jessica, I want to ask you the same question, and then after that, Pat, I'm going to go to you. Just what do you think? What would you like to see the momentum going forward with these different efforts?
Yeah. So first of all, Justin, I actually have tattooed on my arm "When There Are Nine" from RBG. So I'll be looking for your daughter to be on that Supreme Court. The biggest thing I look forward to seeing is the education. Not just because that is my career and my passion, but because I think that's where so many of these things start. And that's what prompted me to start a class in my school and in my county, and what Lisa is helping me to spread throughout Virginia. And then I had a motivational call with, I think this is a running theme of tonight's panel, with Barb, who was like, we're going to make it legislation in Virginia. We are going to, do this together to make it a mandatory thing, where one of my previous students said, men's history is the curriculum, my history is an elective. And that, the book I'm writing, like, that's the opening of it. And to make this mandatory throughout the state of Virginia, so that men and women are learning the full scope of history and all that comes along with it, so that they can start to see what inequities still exist and why we need things like VAWA and the ERA, and what rights our young people have under Title IX when they go off to college, because that information is not there. We're not educating our people, our sons and daughters, our students, with this very vital information. And so that is what I look forward to continue pushing and growing it and getting it out there, with the help of wonderful, amazing people who are, my spirit guides in this movement. And it's all Barb.
And last but certainly not least, Miss Patricia, I'm going to ask you, because I think, hearing from someone who's been at this for definitely longer than I've actually, been able to even get started on this, where would you like to see the momentum going, since you've seen?
Theresa, did you answer that question?
Did I answer the question?
Yes.
No, I hadn't. I can answer it now.
I'm considering passing my time to you. I'm a school teacher, and nobody gets scot-free. I will gladly go after you, but I want to hear from you, my darling.
Okay, I'm actually with what Pooja said, and then what Sarah said. Having someone like Barbara did the same for me. Like, she was just like, hey, you could do, like, she was just like whispering in my ear, and I was like, hey, and I just recognized this kindred spirit. So, like, finding someone who looks like they want to get involved but don't know what to do, finding a person like that, I think that's going to help push the momentum forward. You just never know what kind of work they can do if you open the door for them. Like, and then what Sarah said, just, continuing to have these conversations, continuing to make it accessible to as many people as possible, continuing to, do the work like Lisa's doing and what Jessica's doing, and just constantly being out there so people can say, hey, I saw this thing, or hey, I saw this lady, let me see if I can find her, so I would like to do something. Like, the more we're out there, I think is how we can get people to get more people involved, because it really is going to take all of us as a community to push this forward. Because I'll be honest, when I first heard about the ERA, I was actually sort of flabbergasted, because I was just like, what do you mean we're not equal yet? Like, what? Like, it's 2021. How are we're fighting this? Like, it was so weird to me. And I'm pretty new to the space of fighting for justice, and it just was weird. I just was like, how is it still happening? So I think the more we do these types of have these conversations, the more we do these types of forums, and when we get back out in the world again and hosting different events, the more we do this, do what Pooja said, find someone, bring them in, show them that cookie cutter world that we all live in now. Well, not cookie cutter, because it's not that sweet. it's a lot of work. But you know what I'm saying? And what Sarah said, opening up the eyes of the community members. I think that's how we push the momentum forward. So thank you all for being on here. But Pat, I'm throwing it back to you.
All right. All right. I've already outed myself as a school teacher. All my college degrees didn't do a lick of good. Not my master's degrees, or it was teaching 7th grade social studies, and forgive me, Pooja, but PE. That taught me how to be a lobbyist, and I've been lobbying for women's rights since 1979 here in DC. But I'm dedicated to making I am not poor. I am not a woman of color, but dedicated to having their shouting loud enough till they could get here and then tell their stories. And I was in Montana. I just outed myself as a blessed Montanan for 6 years. We were talking about displaced homemakers, where women got divorced and there was no jobs or training. And the Native woman from a reservation raised her hand and said, there are no displaced Indian women. Our average age we die is 40. We don't get old enough to be displaced. I pledged then and there to never make those assumptions. The other thing is, whoever called me, too bad. The other thing is that we can. The phone distracted me a little. Oh, strangers. Well, when I grew up, you weren't supposed to talk about sex or money or religion or politics. Well, I spent my life talking about all 4 of those. Okay. But secondly, we were never to talk to strangers. So I think of you, Justin, and whoever's being I'm patting his Loudoun County map. And the rest of you, we have to pick up the phone. Stop it. We have to pick up the phone and talk to complete strangers and ask them to vote. We have to go knock on the door. How many of you have stood out on the sidewalk going, oh, please God, let him not be home and I can just put this thing in the door? Come on, all of you. How many have got your leave a message reach? Please don't answer the phone. All right. But it goes all the way up. It goes everywhere. I'm teaching now presidents. Oh, I saw my senator on the airplane. I didn't want to bother him and say hello. And I went, no, you march right up. You say, I'm Harriet. I'm the president of Rhode Island now. And then you say one compliment. He lets his guard down and then you lobby him. And I do, and I'm not bragging, but I'm in a meeting with Joe Biden, and he's giving me the speech about why he can't support Medicaid paying for poor women's abortions. And I'm giving him just the standard line. And I finally looked at him. We're good enough friends. This was years ago, 20 maybe, if not more. Joe, if you feel that way, I wish 3 things for you. That you wake up tomorrow, that you wake up poor, that you wake up pregnant, and that you wake up Black. And you will change your mind. And he looked like deer in the headlights, he's looking around, oh, let me just get out of here. But he promised to think about it, and he now supports ending the Hyde Amendment and Medicaid funding. It only took me 25 years. Okay, but it took all of you being out there knocking on doors with complete strangers. I mean, I've had people on the sidewalk trembling. And I'm going, come on, I'll show you. And then after the 3rd door where nobody bit her or nobody hit her, she goes, I can handle it. And she's the professional door knocker now. So yes, we want to help the women who needs help being battered or we call it the abuse to prison pipeline because it starts before the schools, the racial and the criminal justice unfair treatment of poor girls and women, girls of color. So I want you all every occasion is you've got a door to knock on and a vote to get, whether it's your senator, whether we've got to find Tim Kaine one day or Mark Warner, or whether it's your neighbor who has been wearing the same outfit or ask if you can help. And guess what, Lisa? I love Lisa. Lisa is a couple of decades younger than me, and she's carrying on all the work I've dedicated my life to. So I'm thankful for her. And now I've got to go. I've got a whole nother dang phone call. Bye. Love you.
Thanks.
We love you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. So that's the end of our program today, but I just want to thank all of you guys from the bottom of my heart. Jessica, Barb, even Sarah, even though you got put on the spot here and you were like, oh, panelists. Justin for being here and answering our questions. Miss Lisa, Pooja from London, I appreciate it. And Nick, who's the Loudoun County sign here. I really thank you guys because, it's conversations like this that help us get the work that we need done. And so I hope for the audience today that the conversation was as authentic as possible, so you understand that you don't have to be spouting out, you don't have to know all the statistics, you don't have to know all of the the lingo, because I know that sometimes it gets really confusing and intimidating. You just have to get out there and do it, and it doesn't matter what you look like. I'm a Black person. There's brown and black and white, all types of colors here. It doesn't matter. Just get out there and get it done, because every work that gets done makes a difference. So thank you very much to everyone who participated and to those of you that watched, and see you next month. We'll be doing the next forum session will be on Arab American history. So be sure to check that out as we continue the conversations with the diversity in Northern Virginia and Loudoun County specifically. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Bye.